Hello guys, this is the Polyglot Programmer, and today we're going to talk about using Godot with Git. And most importantly, why you should use Git and some tips. And we're also going to show you a hands-on experience. This is not by any means a deep dive on Git, so it's going to be a very high-level example of how to use Git just to get you started. But if you have any question about Git, I've been working with this thing for a long time and I'll be happy to help. Just feel free to drop your questions on the comments and we can get right to it, right? So to get started, let's start with the obvious, right? So why you should use Git. And for this, I'm using here this guy called Excalibur, and we're gonna take some notes, right? So why use Git? First thing, why you should use Git, right? So to avoid losing things, right? Why avoid losing things, right? Have you ever been in a situation where, I don't know, your hard drive failed, right? Or you forgot to save and your Unreal Engine or your Godot just crashed, which it does happen with the Godot also, guys. Yes, it can happen. And when you're using Git or any other version control, that's one of the things that you're going to avoid, right? Another thing is that do you guys like Back to the Future? You do? Have you ever wanted to travel back in time? Yes, with Git allows you to go back in time, Yes, because let's say that you're working on something and you committed a bug, but you don't know exactly where the bug is and you just want to roll back to where you were yesterday so you can kind of start things over again. Yes, Git will allow you to go back in time. You have a list of everything that you did and you will be able to go back in time, which is awesome. Another very important thing to keep in mind when using Git or any other version control is keep track of your progress, right? So a lot of times you're working for an entire weekend or maybe a month or whatever, and with Git you for every, let's say, bits and pieces that you develop and you push into your repository, and we're going to get to how we do that, that's going to be saved. That's going to be like a history, and you're going to know exactly what you did, when you did. Oh, when did I work on that feature? Oh, you can just go back to the history and you can say, oh, I worked on that feature like four weeks ago. And after that feature, and you know exactly, you have a timeline of everything that you did, right? So you know they worked on this, and then you worked on that, and then you work on that other thing. So that's one other advantage of using Git or any other version control, right? And related to this previous one is easier to pinpoint mistakes and to fix bugs, right? To pinpoint and fix bugs, right? Because since you know exactly when you made a change in a code or in a part of your project, and you know exactly where to go, right? So let's say that you're working on something and you're getting a message that that your bug is coming from a specific part of the project, and you can just go back in your Git history and you can look it up, and you know exactly what did you change and what happened to that piece of file. Ideally, in an ideal world, you're gonna have very small files, very small functions, very small methods, everything with a very nice variable name, and it's gonna be super easy to read. But in real life, that's not always the case. So it's always know exactly what you change, when you change, and that's gonna help you to fix bugs. Another very good use case for Git is backup, right? Again, have you ever been in a situation where your hard drive failed, or your Unreal crashed, or your shit got stolen, right? Yes. If you're using version control, especially if you're pushing that repository to a remote service in the cloud like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, even Azure nowadays have a feature, has a free offer of Git. You will be 100% safe. Your computer can burn down and you will be able to get everything that you need. Nowadays, for example, with my computers, basically everything that matters on my computers are in the cloud somewhere, right? So if everything burns down here, at least what matters, my pictures, my project work, everything's in the cloud. I don't need to worry about it, right? And another very important feature of Git and version control, and one that we cannot forget, is safe experimentation. And this is very cool, guys, because let's say that you're working on a feature and you're working on and you're done, right? So for example, the other day I was working on a project and I had a square grid on my project, and I wanted to experiment with a hex grid. I say, oh yeah, but I don't want to make all the changes in this project. I'm gonna have to change a lot of places. And then what I did with Git is that I just created another branch, which is, let's say another branch, let's say just a copy of your files when your original copy is safe and sound, and you can make all the changes you want on that new branch, on the new copy, and you can experiment all you want in there. And when you're good, you can either merge them together or you can just throw away either one of them. It doesn't matter. So it's really safe to experiment. That's one really important feature of Git, right? Let's go to tips now. So what should you keep an eye on when using Git? And first and foremost is always use a git ignore, right? A git ignore file, and we're gonna get to it on our example, is basically when it's a file which is called .gitignore and lives on the root of your project and basically lists everything that Git does not have to pay attention to. So for example, if you make a change on that file and that file is listed on gitignore or a folder, Git will completely ignore. And that's very, very useful, especially when you're using, because a lot of these engines, for example, Visual Studio projects and whatnot, they have a lot of files that they're generated all the time, and they're basically temporary files that you don't need it, and they're also usually very large. So a lot of these files you can add to it. Configuration files for our IDEs, sometimes even builds you can add to gitignore because you don't want to be pushing your builds to GitHub, and anything else that you can think of. What else? Learn the basics. This is very important. I'm gonna teach you guys how to use Git using GitHub Desktop, which is a very easy way to get started, because I just want you guys to get started. But it's very important for you to know the basics. Know at least the basic of what's going on when you click that button that says commit. Know the basics that what happens when you click the button that says merge. Know what it means to have a change list, right? Know the basics, right? Another very important thing for GitHub or version control is use it even as a solo developer. This is very important, guys. I use Git for every single small, tiny side project, throwaway, it doesn't matter. I always use Git or any other version control. Nowadays, I have also been using a lot of Plastic, but it's the same. The same goes. Always use version control because of all these benefits that we have over here, right? What else? What's the next tip that I can give you guys is one that is very important, is almost like a mantra for people that use Git and version control, and that I'm gonna even caps lock this, is commit early, commit often. What is a commit, guys? A commit is, let's say that you did a chunk of work and you're going to save that work into a repository so you can go back in time, you can keep track of your progress, you can pinpoint, fix bugs, you can have a history. Yes, a commit is that. So every little piece of work that you do, commit, and commit early and commit often, so you can track your history in small pieces, and it's a lot easier to go back in time and a lot easier to take advantage of all these reasons of why use Git. And last but not least tip, which is, I don't always do this, is sometimes for like early stage, really side projects, but let's say that 95% of my projects are in the cloud. Like I said, my computer can burn down and everything that matters is on the cloud, but it's always push code to some remote repository. Oh, they still have caps lock on. Sorry guys, this wasn't supposed to be like this. Anyway, always push code to some remote repository, which can be this can be GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure Desktop, right? Even Unity Gaming Services, they have a free offer of Unity version control, which is they basically renamed that plastic. But always do push to some cloud, some remote repository, so you can take advantage of the backup, right? This is very important, and also is the only way that you can actually work as a team, right? Another very important reason on why to use Git is work as a team. You cannot do this if you do not use version control. Oh, you can, but you're gonna do it poorly. That's a lot of, I see a lot of teams trying it, trying zip files all around, maybe even using Google Drive. Please do not do that. If you need any help, drop a comment down below and I'll be more than happy to help you guys with this. Now that we got all this out of the way, let's go into a practical example, and I already have something prepared here. Let's see if I can do that again. So here I'm going to create a brand new project. This is your standard screen for creating a project at Godot. Name, I already created my folder, renderer, and here you have version control metadata. And this, I'm going to show you what this does, which is almost nothing, but at least I'm going to explain what it does, right? So create, as soon as I hit create, it's creating a project in my other window here. Yeah, created this guy, right? So as soon as you do this, I'm going to show you in the file manager what it did. So what it did here is that it created this file, this configuration file for Godot, and created two files, git ignore and git attributes. This is not a Git repository yet, right? It just defined these two files, which are files that Git will use for some of the things. Like I said, git ignore is the file that Git uses to ignore changes in those directories or files. And here you have that. Here you can see that it added the .godot folder in here. So anything that changes inside that is not going into Git. And we can add other files here. I'm going to show you guys how to get a better one off the internet. And I'm also going to add that to the description so you can guys see, check out. The easiest way to actually initialize a Git repository here on using Godot without having to go to the command line, because I know that a lot of you guys are not very familiar with it, is that you can come here to the asset library and you're just going to type git. And you're going to type git and you're going to get this guy, Godot Git plugin. And you're going to click on it. It's going to show you this. Download. Yes, download, please. Go. Fast. Great. And then it's going to add you a bunch of these files. So you added Git plugin as a add-on in here. And what this guy did is that it gave you the possibility of doing a couple of the Git tasks from within your repository. And by doing this, if you come in here, you can see that no, this guy is still not a Git repository. Do you know why I know that? Because when a Git repository is created, there is a folder called .git that will be created in here. And I'm going to do that now. So to do that from within your Godot, you're going to go to project, version control, and you're going to go to create version control metadata. And once you do that, it's going to ask you which type, which is going to be Git. Existing VCS metadata will be overwritten. So if you already have a Git repository in here, it will be overwritten. We don't have to worry about that. So like, okay. Oh my God, nothing happened. No, sorry, something happened. Don't worry. So after you do that, you can see that it created this. If you go back to Windows Explorer, you can see that it created this .git folder. That's when I know that this is now a Git repository, right? And to manage our Git repository, we're actually going to download a file, which is going to download a guy called GitHub Desktop. That's the best and easiest way for you to kind of do your Git stuff. You don't need to use GitHub, by the way, to use this. You can use it with any other remote version control system. Where you're gonna come in here, you're gonna download this guy, and once you open this guy, you're gonna have a similar window. You're gonna have a window similar to this. Maybe a bit different because I already have a ton of different repositories in here. You can see here. But you're gonna go and you're gonna find this button here. You're gonna say add. You're gonna go to file. You're gonna go to add local repository, and you're gonna go look for. I already have this here. The tutorial. You can see that the .git is there. Select. Yeah, you can add an exception. That's fine. And once you added this here, you can now you're managing. You can see there are a couple of information in here. Here is the name of the repository, right? Here is the branch that you're on, like I mentioned before, is like your little copy that you're working on, right? And here is your published repository, which you don't have this yet. We don't have this set up. And here are your changes, right? So to show you, so the first thing that we're gonna do, the first thing that you do when you create a Git repository is you initial commit. You come in here, you type a message, and you say commit. Initial commit. Why? Initial commit is a very standard way of starting your Git repository, because when you go to your history, you're gonna see an initial commit. This is when I started, right? Great. So let's go back to our Godot project and let's add something in here. Let's add an icon, and our icon, let's add a script. Awesome. And let's save. Okay. Right, so we added the icon here and we have our script. And now if we go back to our GitHub desktop here, you can see that these guys are changed, right? You can see that we have these two guys, right? And now we're gonna commit this guy. So like, okay, so added a script. Great, commit to master, right? Cool. And now I'm gonna make another change. I'm gonna come back here to my script. I'm gonna say fun, ready, print, hello. Great. And you can see here, when I come back here, changes, git hello. Awesome. And let's update that. Git date icon.gd. Awesome. Great. So now let's say that, okay, but I want to experiment something, but I don't want to mess up with my main code. So I want to work on that other I want to work on an area where I'm not going to impact everything else, right? So how do I do that? The way you do this on GitHub Desktop is that you come here to branch, and you're gonna type. You can do this here, or you can do that here. And I also have branch here, and you click new branch, and you type my feature, and now it basically created a copy of your master, and the exact copy. Everything is still working from here, right? And now I'm gonna make a change here. So fun process. And processing, right? And if I run this, as simplest game in the world, so it's printing amount of processing. Great. I experimented, but now I kind of want to go back to my original copy, right? And then I'm just gonna say, let me just first, before you move branches, you always need to commit, right? So now I'm going to come here and say, okay, change on implemented new feature. Great. And now I'm going to go back to master, right? I went back to master. I didn't do any changes here on Godot. When I go back to Godot, it just asked me, it just said, hey, the content of this file changed. You want me to reload? I just say yes, and you see that my other feature is gone. And now if I play, there's no processing happening here anymore. I'm gonna do the same, but now going to my other branch. I'm gonna come in here. Again, nothing happening here at Godot, right? I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna change my new branch, And when I came to Godot, it asked me to reload again, and there I go, my process is here. So that's how easy it is to work with Git, guys. Going back to our tips, right? Always use git ignore, right? Learn the basics, right? Use it even if you're working solo. Commit early enough, right? And always push code to a remote repository. What should you have on git ignore? On git ignore, I'm gonna add a link to the description, but all you need to do, if you come in here, GitHub has its own git ignore repository, which with git ignores from all kinds of different texts. You can find Unity and Unreal here also. And this is a very good starting point for your Godot project, right? This is a lot better than the one that they have, right? The one that they have out of the box that just has Godot. You can add this here. It's not going to change anything for you in your project. And as soon as I made this change, if we go back here, you can see that, okay, my git ignore change that updated. So I can do that again, git ignore, and boom, and now I have history, right? So let's do one thing here before we go, right? So we have this guy here. I just made a change on git ignore, and I have my little history, right? And I said, no, but this is wrong. This is throwing some type of bug, right? I want to go back to this guy. I just come in here, right click, revert changes. Oh, I did the wrong one. I actually wanna revert changes in commit. I wanna revert this guy. Revert changes in commit. And now if we go back to our git ignore, it went back to what it was before. So I literally just went back in time. And this is how easy it is to do this stuff. Of course, that if you're doing this using command line, you need to do a lot more than click a couple of buttons, which I totally recommend you guys learning a little bit about it. But the gist, but this is just how easy it is to use Godot with Git, and you should absolutely be using if you're not already doing it. That's it for today, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.